Greetings, everyone. Once again, it's Motawase, and today we'll make a short continuation once again about Black people through history. Last time we talked about Moto and Muto, meaning Adam and Eve, from the beginning, from how they were created. They were both black. We also talked about the Garden of Eden, how the location of the Garden of Eden, where it was. Also mentioned the maps, which show where the, the rivers were. So today will be sort of a continuation after Adam and Eve. So their descendant, so their sons and their daughter as well. What happened after? Because Black history doesn't stop there; it keeps going until these days. So for that, we're gonna go forward in time after Adam and Eve to see in the Bible still uh, Black people through history. Okay. So before anything, I would like to thank Loba once again for allowing the truth to be spread, for allowing the truth to be known. After many, many years of lies and deception, uh, people are now awakened. People are now being aware of the truth. And thank you, Loba, for that grace and for allowing us to know the truth. Because it is written in John 8:32, the truth will set you free. And it is that truth brought to us in this century by Zulu Lassan that allow us to be mentally, spiritually, and physically free. So once again, thank you, Loba. So be it. Okay, so as you know, you should be aware that in John 3:12, it tells us, that's the Christ said, I have spoken to you of earthly things, and you do not believe. How then will you believe if I speak of heavenly things? So Christ says here that he has spoken about earthly things, about things in the physical. And this is the things of the physical. Black people history, it is of course spiritual as well, but we're gonna focus now here on the physical side. It is spiritual, but we're gonna focus on the physical side, the physical aspect. Because before understanding the spiritual things, you must before understand physical things. You must understand history. You must understand how it happens. Because if you don't understand the things physical that we explained to you, if you don't understand history, if you don't believe in the things that happen, if you don't believe in the science, all that, how will you believe in spiritual things that you don't even have knowledge, that you don't even have basics to understand? The basic is in the physical, because the physical is a reflection also of the spiritual. So you have to understand the physical first. Okay, and it's very, very, there's a lot of mysteries, there's a lot of hidden things, there's a lot of there have been a lot of falsification, but with the method it initiate is allow us to understand them, the hidden things, and to basically explain exactly how it happens. So in that explanation, in that process, we're gonna go, like I said, about Adam and Eve after them. What happened? Because in Proverbs 19:2, it says, also it is not good for a person to be without knowledge. So it's good for no one to be without knowledge, to be without science, to be without the understanding of history, the true understanding of history, not the lies that that have been spread out years after years, generations after generation. Okay, the lack of knowledge is good for no one. Okay, and it is that knowledge that is brought to you today. In Genesis 2, verse 23, it says, at last, in the Good News translation, then the man said, at last, here is one of my own kind, bone taken from my bone and flesh from my flesh. Okay, so here in Genesis 2:23, it tells us that when Adam saw Eve, he said that here is one of my own. Now, in this sentence, there's already mystery. There's already meaning and hidden meaning as well. So you have to understand here that in this teaching, when he says that he is one of my own, one of my kind, one just like me, you have to understand that Eve was like Adam. So that means Eve was black. Now let's talk about their son. Flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. So they looked alike, even though they were different. He was a man and she was a woman, but they were from their own kind. They looked alike. They were from the same race. Okay. Now in Genesis 5, verse 3, and Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth. So here in Genesis 5, verse 3, it tells you that Adam and Eve, they had a third son, like I said, and he was Seth. And he was in the likeness, so he looked like his father, which makes sense. He looked like his father. He looked like Adam. He looked like Moto, like the first man. So he was also black. And in Genesis 6, verse 1, now when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them. So here in Genesis 6, you're told that men starts to spread out. They began to multiply, to have a lot of daughters and sons. And you have to understand here that it was one race. It was one people. It was one kind. Because if it was something different, if it was something special, it would have been mentioned that no, this happened and the people of their kind changed, or people more pale appeared. None of that is mentioned here. All is mentioned here is they had sons. So they looked alike. It was one kind, one race. No change. So from Genesis, the beginning of Genesis, when the first man was created in Genesis 1:26 and in Genesis 2:7, to Genesis 6, it was one race. Now, in Job 15:17 says, if you will listen, I will show you. I will answer you from my own experience. Listen to me, and I will explain to you. Let me tell you what I have seen. Verse 18, and it is confirmed by the report of the wise men who have heard the same things from their fathers, from those to whom the land was given. From those. Okay. So here we're going to go step by step, slowly, so you can understand. In Job 17:18, he says, and it is confirmed by the report of the wise men. So we have here the wise men who have heard the same from their fathers. So from generation before them, from their fathers. So the wise men have heard from the people before them. Okay. From those, so their fathers, so the fathers of the wise men, those to whom the land was given. So here, the land was given to the fathers of the wise men. So the generations before, the land was given to them. And we know from the scriptures, the land was given to Adam and Eve and to their descendant, so to their sons and daughters, so uh, to black people. That that's who the Bible here is referring to them. And in verse 19, from those to whom the land was given before any foreigners arrived. Before any foreigners arrived. So you already told here that they were one people and the land was given to them before any foreigners arrived. So there's already here, you understand that a notion of a foreign, of a foreigner, of somebody different, of somebody from another race, from another tribe, from another clan. From here specifically say foreigners. So that means somebody different. That is different. That is foreign. That is not known. That is not from the same source as them. So basically, they're not brothers. They're different. From those to whom the land was given, long before any foreigners arrived. King James Bible. To whom alone the earth was given, and no strangers passed among them. So they were reserved. They were alone. They were one people, one nation, and the earth was to them before any foreigners arrived and before any other nation arrived. And we know from a fact that the more ancient people on earth is black people. They were the first. You cannot tell me any other nation that was in Africa before black people were. But even when you go in Australia, the people there, they call them the indigenous people, they were blacks. When you go into Asia, the same thing. When you go even to Europe, the same thing. When you go to America, it's the same thing. It was black people all over the place. They were the first. And they were there before any foreigners, before any other nations, any other foreigners arrived. That's the basic. That's the basic of the knowledge of history. That black people were the first. And the Bible confirms that, and history confirms that, and the science confirms that. Any other publication that will try to deny, try to lie, try to misinform people, they're lying. So the earth was given to them because they were the first. There were no other nation before the black race. So that means in Genesis 1 to Genesis 6, it was only black people there. No foreigners arrived yet. The other race were not even into existence. They didn't exist. They weren't anywhere yet. Now, we're going to talk about Noah a little bit once again. In Genesis 10, verse 1, this is the account of Noah's sons, Sem, Ham, and Japheth, who also had sons after the flood. So here, Noah's sons, Sem, Ham, and Japheth. In Genesis 10, verse 6, tells you the sons of Ham. The sons of Ham, Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan, which are all black, because Mitzrayim is Egypt, and Egypt black, Cush is black, so they're all black because they were all brothers. So it was still from that same source, from the same, the first people that were there on the earth. They were the descendant of them. Now, in Genesis 11:1, Now the whole world had one language and one common speech. And as people journeyed eastward, they found a plain in the land of Shinar. So that plain in Shinar is still in Africa, like I mentioned in the map. That's in East Africa. So that's where Babylon was. And you have to understand that Babylon, the first people that that were there, it was black people. Because when you read also in Psalm 87:4, it confirms this. In the New Living Translation, it says, I will count Egypt and Babylon amongst those who know me, and Philistia entire, and even distant Ethiopia. They have all become citizens of Jerusalem. In the English Standard Version, among those who know me, I mention Rahab and Babylon. So you're told here that in Shinar, in that country, in that land, so that was still in Africa, they knew who? They knew the Lord. So they knew God. And they were black. And now, in Isaiah 19:24, it says, in that day, Israel will join a three-party alliance with Egypt and Assyria, a blessing upon the earth. Ziya 19:25. The Lord of hosts will bless them, saying, blessed be Egypt, my people. So once again, is reaffirming and confirming what Psalm also confirmed and said, that Egypt are the people of God. And it's not the current Egypt that we see with mixed people. No, it's the Egypt, the ancient Egypt, where the fire was, where the black people were, where and when they knew their true history, their true identity, and when they knew the true God. So that was just an introduction to say that in Genesis, the sons of Noah, from Adam to Genesis 6, all that, and to the sons of Noah as well, it was all black people. They were basically, the land was given to them. And they were the one that was spreading across all land and building kingdoms, cities, a lot of things. They were the one who were basically kings on the earth before any other nation appeared, before any other race appeared. That's the true history. Now, for some people that will try to deny that Ethiopians are black, in Jeremiah 13:23 says, can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spot? And in Allman Christian Standard Bible it says, can the Cushite change his skin, or a leopard his spot? In Bible of the French Rabbinat Zadokan, can the Negro change his skin, the panther his stripe? Question mark. So here in those three versions, one version says Ethiopian, the other one says Cushite, and the other one says Negro, according to the word they use. And he mentioned a leopard, panther stripe, which are black. So basically, he's asking here, can a black person change his skin? Question mark. Now, that was for the account of Noah.